Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the webinar today. This is part 2 of our Hadoop use cases webinar series, Discover Your Big Data Value. My name is Nathan Nichols, Marketing Coordinator for MetaScale. I'm here with Ankur Gupta, Head of Sales and Marketing. We've been participating in a lot of big data related events, and one of the common themes is Hadoop use cases and big data use cases. So I'm going to pass it over to Ankur, and he can provide some information on that.
Thanks, Nathan. So as Nathan said, this is in a series of webinar and building and using Hadoop use cases. So we want to provide more information from what we discussed last time, and all of you are welcome to go back to our website and look at the early webinar we did, which was part 1 of Hadoop use cases. So guys, once again, let's get started. Once again, thank you for joining us this morning. Quick introduction to MetaScale. MetaScale is a wholly owned subsidiary of Sears Holdings Corporation. We were born out of Sears after Sears, as an early adopter, started using big data technologies to solve a lot of IT and business problems on its side. And as we saw other enterprises started building their big data business case and utilizing Hadoop to solve some of the problems that we did, they asked us for help, and we saw a commercial opportunity, and we formed MetaScale to bring all the expertise and experiences we have built over several years of using Hadoop in a large enterprise and provide a completely vendor-neutral and platform-agnostic consulting and services to other enterprises so they can get started on their big data journey. They can accelerate their big data journey and do not make the mistake that we made 4 years ago because we were one of the early adopters. So we learned from our mistake, but we do not want other enterprises to make the same one, and we are here to help. So continuing with the webinar now. Just 1 second, see some technology glitch here. Okay, sorry about slide delay here. So as you guys know, those of you who are familiar with Hadoop, it's an open source technology. It's available on Apache Hadoop. It's a project from Apache open source, and you can download it on their website anytime. It's fairly easy to put your one node cluster together or multi-node cluster together. However, while it's easy to download the software, build your small Hadoop environment, it's really cumbersome and difficult to build a production-ready Hadoop in a large enterprise. And a lot of companies that we talk to at MetaScale, they say, we can do it in-house, our existing IT company resources can help us, but time and again they come back to us and they ask for help because they didn't do it right to begin with, or they didn't build the use cases and whatnot. So one obstacle is not being able to identify a good use case. Many organizations, there is a lot of hype about the whole Hadoop and big data. Many companies that just jump on the journey because they heard about Hadoop. One of their C-level heard about Hadoop and how it could potentially help them with their analyzed data on their side and solve some of the problems, but they do not really take time to identify use cases that Hadoop will be able to solve or define success criteria for them. So what we suggest is when you start your journey, on Hadoop, or you're starting your Hadoop implementation, pick something small and achievable. Do not attempt to solve all your problems. Start thinking small, build a use case or two, and then move forward. So looking at a recent Wikibon survey, there are a lot and more enterprises are believing in the potential value of big data. As the data size is growing on their side, as our lives are becoming more digital, we're getting data from various sources, from a smartwatch to phone, social media, you name a source, and there is digital data all over it. So as more and more companies are needing a solution to help them with this growing data on their side, Hadoop is certainly becoming mainstream, and there are a lot of press about it, both on positive and negative side. But from a recent Wikibon survey, while a lot of companies are jumping on this Hadoop bandwagon and building Hadoop production environment, not all of them are able to utilize the benefit from this implementation. According to Wikibon, 46% of big data practitioners report that they have realized partial value, and about 2% declared that their big data deployments were totally failure. Wikibon says there are main 3 reasons behind this. One being lack of skilled big data practitioners. So not having skilled resources is somewhat obvious because technology is new. There are not a lot of people who have been doing Hadoop and big data implementation for say 10 or 20 years, and it's not become mainstream for many enterprises yet. So the talent is rare, and not having those skilled big data resources in-house could really impact your big data journey. Then second is, as I touched earlier, it's a raw and a relatively immature technology. So the technology somewhat forces you to rethink what you may have been doing for the last 20 plus years with RDBMS and how to use RDBMS to manage data. But the third and an interesting reason for this failure is not having compelling use cases. As I said before, companies, some of the companies jump on this journey. Somebody has heard about Hadoop in a conference, or they read about it, and they want to kickstart their Hadoop implementation without really identifying use cases or business case that define success criteria using Hadoop. So Hadoop for big data. Now, taking a step back, at Sears, we are a company of Sears, and at Sears, we have realized that Hadoop has helped us solve a lot of IT and business problems on our side. Hadoop has provided that ecosystem and allowed us to manage both structured and unstructured data on our side, where we are able to archive the data while analyzing it at the same time, which is a very powerful concept. So we believe that Hadoop is here to stay, and it's a great complementary system to your existing EDW. Hadoop ecosystem for big data ROI. To achieve big data success, there are a couple of points that we mentioned here. And what we suggest to other enterprises is you need to take a step back. You really need to think through your big data journey, really need to strategize it and identify use cases. But there are a couple of steps as we have laid out here, bringing IT and business together. So make sure that both, while IT folks are responsible for implementation and building of Hadoop infrastructure, you need to get in partnership with your business side and define those use cases, define success criteria, define how Hadoop will fit into your environment. And you may have, a company may have maybe a big Teradata shop, big IBM mainframe shop, or for that matter, any other ecosystem. You need to really identify how Hadoop will fit into that ecosystem, how Hadoop will allow you to ingest data from those various systems and be able to put data back. What are some of the use cases that will work, that are specific to data on your side, to your industry and whatnot. So these are some of the very basic checkpoints that we have mentioned. I encourage all of you to look to actually see our webinar on making a case for Hadoop in your enterprise by Andy McNallis on our side, and we also have a white paper on the same topic that actually gives you a checkpoint list of what needs to be considered when you're thinking about Hadoop in your enterprise. Now let's look at some of the use cases. So part 1 of our webinar, we actually touched upon several use cases that were specific to our client, but we continue to get requests from a lot of companies for their specific industry or on, okay, what could be a use case on our side? There are many generic use cases, and actually in this webinar, we are touching upon a few of those, including some of the use cases that we have seen on our side with our client, but there are some generic ones that came to our radar based off of our discussion with other clients or internet or through whatever resources. So we wanted to kind of give you a view to some of these use cases that may be applicable to your specific industry. So let's start on the first use case in a transportation industry. What we saw was how would a client be able to link large volume of vehicle onboard device data. So all the data that's coming from your GPS sources, the sources that are on board on your transportation device, and then be able to predict traffic condition based off of the actual data. So it could be traffic data, weather data, and whatnot. So the data was coming from various, sometimes synchronous, sometimes asynchronous resources. And the challenge was how would you combine all of the data from various resources and be able to take business decisions. What we saw was by using Hadoop as a source, and by able to, I continue to mention the subject of using Hadoop as an enterprise data hub, and we'll touch base on this a little bit later. But essentially, what it does is allow you to combine various data sources from both synchronous and asynchronous data sources, and be able to analyze the data and keep it in the most granular form. And what we saw in this particular case is by predicting traffic conditions based on actual data, the driver can now determine roads to avoid congestion and improve fuel efficiency. So could be a really good use case for a large transportation company that are getting a lot of data from various transportation device and looking to meet SLAs, whether it's for delivery or something else. The second one is healthcare. Again, there is a lot of debate about using big data in healthcare. What Hadoop has allowed really is be able to look at data for last 10, 15, 20 years, allow healthcare companies to store the data in a very economical way, because Hadoop is a fairly fault-tolerant and generally built on commodity hardware, so allows you an economical way to store all of the data and be able to analyze it. So the concept I initially said was analyzing data while and archiving it. If you think about it, it's fairly powerful, and it wasn't possible before using your traditional RDBMS, because it'd be very expensive to store large amount of data, and processing on top of it will be, again, cost prohibitive with the large amount of data. So in this case, for a healthcare client, we saw that client wanted to integrate health information from various sources and be able to help patients and insurance subscriber to promote their health. So be able to take decisions off of claims data, personal health information, aggregate health information, and the research data to provide guidance on how to promote health, how to promote good health and habits to manage. And we saw that by analyzing data from various sources and using Hadoop as a data hub, it became possible. The client was able to subscribe or prescribe guidance to its customers, subscriber, and normalize their medical expenditure. The third use case is applicable to retail, travel, and hospitality. And this is something that's, I would say, more and more loyalty programs are coming in picture, whether it's an airline loyalty program or a retail loyalty program. The idea of those loyalty programs is to better understand and analyze your customer. At Sears, as we become more and more member-focused organization and connect digitally with our customer, we want to understand their shopping habits. We want to be able to provide suggestion to them based off of their specific shopping requirements. And this requires, again, combination of data from various sources. It could be your point of sale data, so if a customer is coming into a store or checking on a flight and whatnot, and the inventory data, historical purchase data, combining data from all of these various sources, and be able to analyze the data and make specific recommendation. What we saw on our side was that, one, combining all of this data using a traditional data warehouse, traditional EDW was cost prohibitive. So be able to keep all the data, the storage was very, very expensive. And then also, the job would take forever to run. So in order for you to be able to connect digitally to your customer, you want to be able to provide immediate offerings. So for example, if someone has purchased a refrigerator from our store, we want to be able to send them an email and suggest what else would go with that refrigerator, whether it's a connector, whether it's a pop box or whatnot. So you want to be able to analyze the data quickly and be able to make a recommendation quickly, which using Hadoop we have been able to do. And then another use case is we see that this is applicable to any industry, and folks who are listening from various companies and various industries, as your customer, the social media is entering more and more in our lives. The conversations are all digital. We buy something, we either recommend it to our friends, or if we don't have any good experience, we obviously we do not shy away from sharing our negative experience online. There is a lot of online data. There are videos that are posted. There is chat data. There is call center data in terms of both phone calls and emails, online chat and whatnot. Online forms are being submitted. So what we see is Hadoop allows you to, again, manage both. A lot of that data is unstructured data, so keep both structured and unstructured data, and allows you to provide sentiment analysis on that data to better understand those conversations, better understand the sentiment of your customer or potential customers about what are they saying about your brand, whether they're liking your brand, whether they have problem with your brand, and allow you to really provide that better customer service. So you see there are a lot of services that are coming up that if somebody has a bad experience at a particular store or a location, if they mention something online, you can really catch the sentiment quickly and make that unhappy customer experience in a positive customer experience and have your customers for a lifetime. Now, one of the use cases that we continue to speak regularly about is using Storm Kafka for real-time processing. And we have spoken on this topic quite a bit in various big data forums. Storm is a part of Hadoop ecosystem of big data tools. It's a distributed real-time computation system and enables analytics on real-time streaming data. And it is a very powerful concept that allows you to, which may have several potential use cases in whether it's for insurance claim processing, order processing, inventory tracking, and whatnot. So think of it in a retail perspective. If a customer is buying an item X, you can really, using Storm, you can really send that POS data to inventory team in real time, and you can understand how, from that customer shopping behavior, what else could you suggest to that customer, what else to buy based off of, overall aggregate customer behavior in that particular store and that particular location. So Storm has really allowed us to do so. I highly recommend going again on our website and seeing more details on how Storm has really helped us analyze that real-time data for our retail clients. Okay, so let's talk about some of the aha moments in Hadoop. So these use cases are specific to our clients that we have served. And while Hadoop, we wanted to mention those as part of this webinar. While Hadoop was initially used to solve some of the challenges we saw, there were some interesting aha moments as part of that journey, as part of that analysis, that actually over and above the challenges that we were trying to resolve for our client provided additional value. The first one was allowed us to solve a problem where now most of the enterprises have several devices, whether it's a retail enterprise, whether it is a transportation enterprise, and all these devices are generating data. And the larger a company, the larger those network devices would be. Those data could be Wi-Fi access network point, network controller, firewall controllers, and whatnot. And the data is coming from these various sources. What we did, the challenge was how would you use Hadoop to gain insight and analytics on this network infrastructure? So one, you're able to manage your devices better. So you can monitor the device and predict network failure and gain insight into performance of these devices. And that's exactly what we did. We were able to use Hadoop to manage data from these various devices and then be able to monitor performance and predict network failure in time before it happens to obviously manage the better usage of this device. But the interesting aha moment was, and I'll give you an example, as we were analyzing the Wi-Fi data used by customers for this retail client, we were looking at what are some of the top websites that customers visit when they shop in those stores. And interestingly enough, you would see potential competitor retail sites coming up at the top that you would imagine. While Facebook and competitor site ranked high, interestingly enough, sites like Pandora, Netflix, and YouTube were among the top ranked sites. So allowed us to really understand. That was an aha moment for us because we realized that while common sense would tell us that customer would come for shopping in our client store and look for competitive retail site, many of these customers, actually a lot of those customers were looking at video sharing or entertainment website. And what it would tell us that some of these competitors, maybe they would have, the customers would have kids who are coming to these stores, and mom would use free Wi-Fi to use put some entertainment for the kids while she's shopping. So really allowed us to get better insight into our customer and offer them marketing initiatives that are specific to their shopping habits or specific to their demographics and whatnot. That was one of the aha moments. The second one was system monitoring for customer loyalty reward program with Hadoop. As I mentioned, Hadoop allows you to now better manage loyalty program. So you can understand your customer. You can both store and analyze this vast amount of data from various sources. For our client, the problem was the client was running system monitoring for customer loyalty program on Teradata. So data latency was an issue because it provided results pretty much the next day because of the large amount of data and the time the job was taking to run. And the challenge was how would you use Hadoop to enable more proactive redemption reporting so that various stakeholders, various businesses can examine if we are selling, whether we are selling better clothing, better shoes, appliances, or something else. And using Hadoop as the enterprise data hub, we were able to process heterogeneous data formats and provide output to these various stakeholders based on specific user needs. So as I said, we were able to both analyze the data in real time while able to manage the data from these various heterogeneous data formats. But most importantly, now when all the data was made available in Hadoop for a real-time consumption, business realized that data could also be used to identify potential reward in loyalty program point redemption. So that was something we were not really initially expecting from our initiative, but we realized that that was an aha moment again for us, for this client, that now we could actually put parameters of redemption, and when those parameters are exceeded, an alert would go to loss prevention for immediate response. So this allowed us to not only do better proactive customer service, but also mitigate losses from fraud and save money for our retail clients. So it was an interesting aha moment. Now I have talked enough about Hadoop as an enterprise data hub, and this is a quick architectural layout of how we have defined Hadoop as an enterprise data hub. And as you see, a lot of other vendors are now talking about it. At Fierce, this is a concept we have been using for a long time, and we continue to talk about it in various conferences, and we actually did a webinar on that. So again, something, if you want more details on this specific subject, I would encourage you to go to the webinar and look through it. But just at a conceptual level, what it does, it allows you to get data from various systems of record, keep the data in its most granular form, and allows the gate data, as we call it, gold layer of data storage, where all the data in its most granular form is available, and that becomes a single source of truth that anybody can go on top of it and pull presentation, go in the presentation layer and pull data out of that gold layer. Obviously, there's data governance piece involved and access and whatnot. So for more details, I recommend that you read through our webinar on using Hadoop as an enterprise data hub. Okay, so with that, we are right on time at about 30 minutes. Let's see if we have some questions here.
So yeah, Ankur, we got a couple questions coming in through chat, and just we could have announced this earlier, but if you do have any questions, just send them to us through the chat feature, and we'll pick those up and answer them as we go along. But to get started, we do have a couple in the queue. The first one, I mean, you talked a lot about unstructured data sources in the use case examples. The question is, what if I only have structured data? Does Hadoop still offer value?
Absolutely. So what we have seen on our side, that we've used Hadoop for both structured and unstructured data. At the minimum, a use case, and since we're talking about use case, I'll speak the same language. Our simplest use case could be just storage. We are actually hearing from some of our clients who are looking to store their Outlook data. As the email files and attachments are going on their side, they're considering Hadoop, and we are in discussion with a few clients, and we found it very interesting that companies would actually consider Hadoop for that, for storage. So I would say absolutely. So while Hadoop may not do the same thing as a typical RDBMS would, which allows you to go to a specific record and fetch that record quickly, because Hadoop is, again, parallel processing, flat file processing, so you need to open the whole file and read through it, close the file, and give you results. But Hadoop could be a great ecosystem, and as I said, for the most simplest level, an ecosystem for storage and to manage the large amount of data, whether it's structured or unstructured.
Okay. Kind of building on that, you talked about archiving data in Hadoop. Is it possible to join old data, such as data stored on tape, or data that you may have had laying around that you were never able to use? Is it possible to join that with your new structured and unstructured data sources?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what we see is in our concept of using Hadoop as an enterprise data hub, when so at Sears we have Sears Holdings, which owns both Sears and Kmart, and they're two very different systems. So we have POS data coming from both of these systems. And what we suggest is when you have two data coming from two asynchronous sources, you want to denormalize data if required and keep it in the most granular form within your enterprise data hub. So absolutely possible. I mean, and there are a lot of details. I'm oversimplifying my answer here, but I would say I would recommend going on our website and seeing our webinar of using Hadoop as an enterprise data hub for a lot more details on the subject.
Okay. Following up on the enterprise data hub, how does Hadoop change the concept of the enterprise data hub, or how does that fit into your existing EDW environment?
Sure. So the concept of data hub is not new. You have had the conventional data hub, and you have now we talk about Hadoop as an enterprise data hub. So the conventional data hub is not really a consistent architecture. It's heavily relying on ETL. I think it's partial, it's siloed, and it doesn't really do an effective job of how we define as an enterprise data hub. So Hadoop ecosystem-based data hub is essentially a three-phase architecture to cover the full enterprise data flow. So one of the concepts you've talked about is 3 T's of Hadoop, where we are actually flipping the concept of whole ETL. Instead of ETL, we say using Hadoop as an enterprise data hub, we convert it into ELTTTT. You extract your data from various sources once, you load it once, and then you transform it as needed. So that's a very interesting and powerful concept, and that's what Hadoop really changes, part of Hadoop Enterprise Data Hub. We call it the true center of enterprise data. That's as an enterprise data hub using Hadoop. It's 3 T's driven, it's not silo, very consistent architecture, and you get data in the most granular form that can be used to transform for any reason that may be required.
Okay, and that kind of just answered another question we had about the ETL use case for structured data. So kind of getting back to the use cases, one of the questions here is, what is your process for defining success of a use case? Or what is the methodology used in discovering use cases?
Sure. We have a pretty robust methodology on our side at MetaScale, and that's what we take our customers through. What we do is we go through a questionnaire where we speak with stakeholders from both business and IT side, understand their pain points, and define success of how, if we use Hadoop for some specific use cases, what success would look like. So I'll give you an example. For one of our clients, we're looking at running a big RDBMS join, RDBMS-based system join that was taking over 10 hours to run. And what we said was, if you can move the job and run the join in Hadoop, it can be run in minutes, not hours. And the idea was really, and that wasn't just came through the day one when we started talking. We needed to understand the whole data flow, understand how various systems on our client side are talking to each other. What is the success criteria for business stakeholder? Because most of the time, businesses don't really care about what underlying technology you're using, as long as you're meeting their business demand. So it's a robust methodology on our side where we take our clients through the detailed questionnaire, understanding pain points on their side. And what we suggest is instead of going full-blown Hadoop infrastructure, start small. Start with a simple proof of concept. And we do proof of concept all the time where we put together a small 10 or 25 terabyte Hadoop cluster and run a use case or two and see if it is successful or not. And that really allows our clients to really test the power of Hadoop in a very economical way without really making big investments and seeing the strategic and both business and IT benefits of Hadoop in a very, as I said, in a very small investment and effort.
Okay. I think we can get one more question in, and this is kind of moving back to the Enterprise Data Hub. The concept of the Enterprise Data Hub with Hadoop seems to be picking up speed or gaining steam. How is MetaScale's approach to that different from other offerings for other companies?
Sure. MetaScale has been doing it for a long time. Enterprise Data Hub, Hadoop as an Enterprise Data Hub is a concept I wouldn't claim that we invented, but we have been talking about it for a long time, long before many of our competitors have started talking about it. And we say that it is a journey. It's something that you need to, again, as part of your Hadoop strategy, your big data strategy, you want to include in your strategic framework of how would you want to use Hadoop as an enterprise data hub. And our offering is really taking our clients through that understanding of how Hadoop will work as an enterprise data hub, how you will be able to ingest data from various systems of records, how would you be able to denormalize the data, and then define various layers of the various layers of the data storage, whether it's goal layer, Smith layer, or the presentation layer, and really build a whole ecosystem for our clients. So our approach is, again, become the strategic partner, and as a completely, while we are a vendor, we are also a vendor-neutral company, so we provide platform agnostic neutral advice because we come from a large enterprise, advice to our clients on how to get started in this whole big data journey in your Hadoop as an enterprise data hub journey, and what are various solutions available, how to go about it, and how to answer some of the questions that we had to answer when we started in our journey long ago.
Okay, great. We did get a really a good question here. How small of an investment is needed to get started with Hadoop or with your use case discovery? Sure.
Actually, the investment, as I said, we recommend all our clients if you're not already an existing Hadoop shop and you're thinking about it, the investment is fairly small. Bit hard to quote the numbers because it could be specific to a client, but I would say as small as less than 25 grand for a small POC of couple of weeks, where you can have a dedicated cluster. You're not looking at multi-tenant online cluster. You're looking at your own dedicated cluster where it'll be dedicated to our client, and then where you have a strategic partner like MetaScale who'll help you identify use cases on your side and actually allow you to run those use cases on the dedicated cluster. So only once you see the success, you can start thinking about a full-blown Hadoop environment or implementation.
Okay, I think with that, those are some really good questions. We will be making this recorded webinar available following the event, and so with that, were there anything else you wanted to cover, Encore?
Not really. I highly recommend, again, this is a series of use case webinars we did, so I suggest looking at our first webinar where we covered a bunch of ETL use cases using Hadoop, and those were the use cases that we solved for our clients, and the use cases today were a little bit more generic, not necessarily all where we were directly involved, but those that we came across, as I said earlier, through either internet or through our discussions with potential clients and such. And the last few where we shared aha moments were those that were specific to us. So again, suggest using going through the first series of webinars, but If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to send us an email at info@metascale.com. We are here to help. We come from a large enterprise, so we understand your pain points, and we will be happy to kickstart your big data journey or help you make better use of your existing Hadoop shop if you have. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Encore. And just to let you know, we do have a pretty extensive list of webinars built up that you can look into at metascale.com. If you go to resources and then webinars, we have the ETL webinar that Encore referred to, as well as part 1 of this webinar series, in addition to making a case for Hadoop in your organization. If you're beginning your big data journey, or even if you're well on your way, we strongly suggest that you check those out. There's a lot of valuable information. With that, like Encore said, any questions you can direct to contact@metascale.com, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. And with that, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.